What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Dolphins Daily, your daily dose of Dolphins content with your boy Chris Kane. Let's talk about the Dolphins. I'm not saying I'm right a lot, and in fact, recently I've been wrong quite a bit because a lot of things have been happening kind of randomly. But I mentioned a handful of episodes ago, the Dolphins had a few paths to restructure. The easiest one being Minka Fitzpatrick, the second easiest being Tua, and I haven't gotten to the other permutations because those two give us the most amount of money back. And I said don't be shocked if sooner than later you hear Minka restructure. And guess what happened? You guessed it, restructure contract. So now Minka Fitzpatrick is getting $16.2 million added to this year. He had no more guaranteed money left on his deal, meaning if we just cut him at any point, he had no more money to get paid out. Obviously, no person wants to be in a situation with a contract where, hey, there's no guaranteed money coming my way. NFL contracts are largely a lie. Largely, if you look at how they're broken down, it'll say 4 years, $100 million, and you think, oh wow, they're getting 25 million a year, and then it'll be 55 guaranteed. It's like, oh, so you're giving me like basically 2 years guaranteed, and then the other two you got to get out of, and it's like, yeah, which is why when Deshaun Watson got his fully guaranteed deal, the NFL basically committed collusion. I mean, that's basically come out recently that they said as a league, we're not doing this again because once you guarantee a contract fully, that money has to be made available then. You have to put it in an escrow account and then it still gets paid out over those years, but that money has to be made available immediately. And teams are like, we may have to get the money down the line. We may have to restructure some stuff to get the money. We don't want to guarantee all the money up front. So, guarantee money for players is everything. That's why a lot of guys will take shorter contracts if it's a bigger guarantee. So Minka Fitzpatrick came here, no guaranteed money, but 2 years left on his deal. So if he played the deals out, he would have gotten about 15 million a year, which is great. But again, you could have cut me at any time. So we restructured this deal. This actually frees up 11 million for the Dolphins for this year. Don't know how they're going to use that money. I'm not sure if this is part of the contracts with Mike Hilton and Jack Jones, or if there's another move out here that we need to make and we need to free up some money for it. That part isn't clear, but we now have a little bit more breathing room because we were up against it. I mean, like $2-3 million to try to make some moves. We have a lot of money. We now do. The Minka thing isn't done though because Minka actually hired Drew Rosenhaus, famed agent, Tyreek Hill's agent as well, to help him restructure and renegotiate a longer term deal. So obviously, we have multiple of his clients already on the team. Drew has a working relationship with the team, so there hopefully won't be any animus between us. But Minka wants a longer term deal. Of course, he does. If we do an extension, we can actually extend some of his money out even further, which means for future years we can even free up more money. So it's in our best interest to do that if the goal is to keep Minka past the 2 year mark, which by all indications it seems like that's the case. I'm actually totally cool with Minka playing this year out first, and then before he finishes his last year, extending that last year maybe to a 2 year extension, maybe 3 year extension, you know, 15, 18 million. I'm okay with that because his last couple years he has been less than he was his first few. So we don't know if that is a Pittsburgh trend. We don't know if that was I'm in the wrong defensive schemes thing, or is he actually just not as good a player as he was? Because if he's not as good a player now as he was then, I'm not paying you like the guy you used to be. That's how teams get into bad contracts. Oh, you were good for a couple years. Let's pay you out for five more. And it's like, no, no, no. I have maxed out. I gave you my best already. So if Minka is the Minka that I like at Alabama, the Minka that we drafted, if he's that same guy and he balls out, even if like halfway through the year, if he's looking like he's on a Pro Bowl trajectory, all pro, early consideration, I can see an extension happening then. We may do one now in the offseason. I don't see it happening. Minka's at practice. There's no word of a holdout. Again, he has 2 years left on his contract and just got restructured. Haven't heard anything about him holding out, but that is how you get leverage. But with Zach with 2 year on his deals, like, hey, I'm probably getting half of what I should be getting. Minka is actually getting paid at the number he should be getting paid at. 15, 16 million, I think, is more than a fair number. He just wants a couple more years of that. Zach is getting underpaid. 10.3, 10.7 million. He's a $20 million guy. Different conversation with him. So I don't think Minka would do a holdout at any point, nor do I think he will make a big stink if he doesn't get a contract like immediately in the offseason. I want him to earn it, like I always do. If he balls out this year, let's extend him. We already like him. We had him and brought him back. But I just like being right about stuff because I'm not always right. But when I am, I'll let you know. We talked a lot about team culture recently, and a lot of it is about the players telling you this is what our culture is going to be. And I mentioned again a few episodes ago that Ray Lewis indicated that when he played, the culture was set by him and the players. It wasn't set by the coaches. It wasn't set by Ozzie Newsome. It was him and his cohorts, like the T Sizzles and the Ed Reeds, and they said this is what our culture is going to be. And then everyone who came onto the team had to abide by it. And I said I think the Dolphins should make the players set the culture because I think Mike McDaniel is honestly he's been around so many coaching staffs and he's part of the Shanahan tree, but I don't know what the Shanahan culture is with San Francisco. They have a ton of talented players who they paid a ton of money and they have no Super Bowls to show for it. They've been in two, but haven't won one. So what the culture is, we're the most creative team with the most amount of money we're spending. Okay, fine. I don't know if that's a culture you can build on, but the Dolphins, since I said what I said, there's been more rumblings that hey, we're starting to make our own culture internally. And Austin Jackson actually came out with this quote recently about kind of things they're putting in place to make the team more accountable. He said, it's something we as players decided. We have pre snap penalties. We're going to punish ourselves for that. Things that are in our controllables is what we call that. Pre snap penalties, we can control that. So if we make the mistakes in practice, we're going to self correct ourselves with a little disciplinary action, a little running. Now, running in and of itself is not like some crazy thing. You have to run to be conditioned in football anyway. And most sports, this is the thing. If any of you ever played high school, maybe you up to college football, basketball. I didn't play basketball that long. I played basketball like in middle school for like a year. But if someone missed a few free throws or blew a layup, we all had to do like the wall sits where you're against the wall and your legs would just be, and it's like y'all go sit on that wall until Johnson can make a free throw, and you like, come on Johnson, and he's like, I'm sorry, and we just sat against the wall. It's a thing. In football, we do like up downs. You obviously wind sprints are a real thing, but I think this probably exists in most sports. I've only played those. In track and field, we don't really do that. But it's a thing where, hey, if you not doing your job affects everyone else. Pre-snap penalties are. I watch so much football, and when I see 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, and all an offensive lineman just jumps back, and it's just like you see that they pan to the coach, and the coach is just like throwing his helmet or throwing his like visor. Shout out to Steve Spurrier, or throwing a play sheet, just like dog, just hold your water. Is what we say. Hold your water, man. Like, yeah, I get that they got a blitz on your side, and you want to get out of your stance and get a position. You gotta do better. Anytime a wide receiver jumps off sides, I don't know what we're doing there. Do better, but lining up in a neutral zone, really, that's a Chris Jones reference. That's how Kansas City didn't make it to the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes' first year, he lined up in a neutral zone, and Tom Brady threw a game-winning pick, but he lined up off sides and then he lost. So Chris Jones is a god, but that's part of his resume too. My point is, these kind of things they're little accountabilities. They might make you do a couple wind sprints for jumping off sides, but it more is about I don't want to do extra cardio because who does? But also I'm letting my team down when I do that. If I miss a block, like last year, yes, last year, the Broncos played the Chiefs last year in a game where it was unreasonable that Denver was just the better team all game. I don't know what was going on because I didn't think Bo Nix was that good. They got down to I think like a 30-something yard field goal to win a game, and one of the blockers for the Broncos just never came out of his stance. Like he was down to make the block on the line and just never came up. He just got pushed over, and then the Chiefs blocked the kick and won the game. And it's one of the worst blocks I've ever seen. I don't know what we're doing. He never got out of his stance, and it's like, did he not know the snap count? This is the game-winning field goal on the line, on the 30-yard field goal. He just didn't do his job, and he was like, oh man, I thought it was on two. We can't have that. But that stuff starts now. The preparation for that happens now. Maybe it was, you know, or having a rookie quarterback or having a new coach and a new system, and just something didn't quite get dotted and crossed, and all of a sudden, hey, you didn't do your job. If you had just done a half decent block, we beat the Chiefs. Who knows with the division and the playoff implications and all that stuff? You don't know. So I do think I'm here for all of this. I think there should be more. I think there should be the fines are tough. If they really had like if we had the culture to the level that I think it can get to, there may be like fine things or like a little fine bucket. Hey, every time you jump off sides, got to put $100 in the bucket. We'll donate that to charity, or whatever. Like we'll figure out a way to give that money to a reasonable cause. But yes, you got to do a couple sprints and you got to put $100 in. So now we got money and physical, accountability attached to it. I think this is great. I think there should be more. I think it should keep growing and growing as the team goes. And the idea is that we will just be more buttoned up because most games come down to execution, not players. You can have great players, but if they're not doing their job, how many times the quarterback throwing a perfect pass and receiver went to catch it, but turned his head slightly right when the ball got to his hands and dropped it, and then looked at the hands like his hands betrayed him? I was like, no, you didn't look the ball in because at some point during OTAs you were trying to do one handed catches or you got lazy with technique. Got to lock in on the little parts. So I'm very much here for this. Let's keep the culture growing. Back to the top 25 in the last 25. At number 15, one of my favorites, Jaylen Waddle. Y'all know how much I like Waddle. I've talked about it many times. Ever since Alabama, he is my favorite receiver from that class. He came into the Dolphins his rookie year, 104 catches, awesome. Barely 1,000 yards with 100 catches is crazy, but doesn't matter. He did that. But his second year on the Dolphins didn't have as many catches. I think he has 75, 76, but 1,350 yards his second year. Big jump. Awesome. Third year, another 1,000-yard season. His first 3 years, Jaylen Waddle was out here balling. Last year, there's a step back. I still believe to this day that we haven't seen the best Jaylen Waddle. I think the second year was closer to his best version, 1,300 yards, 8 touchdowns. I never believed that he couldn't be a double-digit touchdown guy, and I think a 1,500-yard season is doable. I don't. He's so fast. Like that year, he had a lot of longer receptions. He had like an 84-yard touchdown during that year, and his yards per catch were 4 yards like 4 yards more per catch than any other year. So it wasn't that we were just force feeding him the ball. It's that he was breaking a lot of big plays, and not all of his big plays are him 60 yards down the field catching over the shoulder. It's a slant and you miss a tackle and we out of here. It's a post and the safety's angle not good and we gone. He still has that world class speed. I think it almost gets lost because Tyreek is Tyreek. That we always like, oh yeah, Waddle's fast. Nah, Waddle is one of them. Go back and look at his SEC tape and watch how much faster he was than all these SEC defenses. I mean, he would do punt returns. He would take reverses. Like just the way he played, I was such a big fan of him coming out. So when we got him, I was like, awesome. I want more of what that Waddle was. And I think 15 is probably a reasonable number. I think if he had balled out last year and had his fourth straight 1,000-yard year, 100 catches, whatever, he would be higher on the list. But I got no beef with this. Y'all know I'm a Waddle fan all day. And let's try to get him back in that, 13, 1,500-yard mark because I think he can do it. We just got to make sure we prioritize him a little bit more to kind of make that happen. Now let's get into the comments. I did the last segment on Jaylen Waddle because that's actually where our question originates. A guy hit me up on TikTok and he was asking. I did a post about Tyreek Hill, and he was very critical of Tyreek. He was like, overrated diva, blah 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 blah. I don't think he's a Dolphins fan, or he's just a disgruntled fan. We didn't really identify, but he was asking, when are we gonna make Jaylen Waddle like the feature receiver? Which, if you go back a few months, I said I think it's totally on the board at some point this year. Jaylen Waddle becomes wide receiver one if the Dolphins decide we're not going to go forward with Tyreek. We still don't know what's the situation there. There's always trade speculation, like Colin Cowherd put a thing out, and Nick Wright's talking about stuff. Like, a lot of people are trying to like stoke the flames of Tyreek being out of here. I've always thought that Jaylen Waddle was number one, but we haven't had the best version of Jaylen and the best version of Tua at the same time. So we don't know his full capacity because we haven't been able to maximize it. I think Tyreek as a number two option actually is really dynamic for an offense. He would get less targets per game, but I think he would get better cornerback matchups. I think Jaylen as a number one could really emerge. I think he has all the skills, he has all the ability. He just has to stay healthy, which as a Dolphin fan, yeah, if everybody stay healthy, we'll be great. Yes, I understand that. But I think if the team, because the year that Tyreek got 1,799 yards receiving, he got an unreasonable amount of targets. It was very obvious that we were trying to get Tyreek 2,000 yards. Very obvious. Everybody talked about it. He was on that pace halfway through the year. And it was like, yo, is he going to be the first 2,000-yard receiver? I know Megatron got like 19, I want to say 1964. That's top of the dome. I know he had like 1,900. He didn't quite get there. But we were talking about Tyreek. It's like, yo, Tyreek 2K, like that was a big thing. That was a big deal. And we force fed him the ball, and he had almost 1,800 yards, right? I don't think Waddle needs that many. He tends to be a little bit more, downfield explosive. But I think if we give if we give Jaylen Waddle, I don't know, 120 targets this year, because typically you catch about somewhere between 75 and 85% of those passes. So if he ends up at 90 to 100 receptions, if he's doing that, what he did second year, 18 yards per reception, obviously that's on pace for 1,800 yards. But if his average for his career is like 13 and a half yards per catch. So, 100 catches, 13 and a half yards per catch, that's 1350. I want him to be closer to 15 yards per catch. So my projection would be 100 catches, 1,500 yards, about 10 touchdowns. If we make him the future number one receiver, that will put him in a Pro Bowl, probably with Jamar Chase and I don't know who else would be in that category. It's the AFC, so you know there's a couple good receivers in the AFC, but I think he can be the number one. But if the team's goal is to bring back Tyreek for a 2 or 3 year extension, then I don't think we will make him the number one receiving option as long as Tyreek is there. I think it's a either or situation, and I don't think Tyreek's ego is going to allow him to say, "Nah, I'm cool being number two." I think Tyreek is, "I'm top dog. I'm the highest paid. Give me the rock." Jalen seems to be a little bit more chill, but of course he wants to rock too. But I think Tyreek being temperamental is way different than Jalen being temperamental. And if he's coming back for more years, that unfortunately I don't think we'll get to see Jalen Waddle be the number one. I think he can be, but we will see. But as always, guys, thank you for tuning in to Dolphins Daily. We appreciate the love and support. Thank y'all for the likes and subscribes. We'll see you next time on Dolphins Daily. Peace.